We got Kurt Helin of NBC Sports now to talk pro rack. Kurt, good to see you. You and I were talking about New Orleans. Yeah, I've been there a bunch of times. Yeah, I've been to the Super Bowl there. I saw the Bears beat the Patriots there in '85. Wow. I also saw Indiana, my alma mater, beat Syracuse in '87 on the Keith Smart shot to win the national championship. Bob Knight's third. So I have been there multiple times. I've done my show there multiple times over the years, and I've rocked New Orleans hard, believe me, you. It's good to see you. I want to start with this. What was your initial reaction when you saw the talk of a 10-minute quarter?
I rolled my eyes. I'm like, and I think the headline of the story I wrote was like, really, Adam? Really? Hey, look, I genuinely believe this was him floating a trial balloon that I was told later wasn't really anything with it. It's something Adam likes that wasn't terribly popular within the league office even. But Adam floated it out there, and I know I wrote something about it. A bunch of media members did, but beyond us, forget us. Michael Malone ripped it. A couple other coaches ripped it. A couple players ripped it. Like, nobody likes this idea. So hopefully that burst the trial balloon and we're dead. Because, Scott, I don't like messing. Like, pitch clock is one thing, but you're now changing the fundamental essence of the game. Like, you're it's not a pitch clock. It's making it a 7-inning game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I thought it was, relatively ridiculous. I have to ask you this question. So today we ran a clip of Zion talking about blame them, blame the Pelicans. They're the ones that are saying I can't play back-to-back. I work for them. They call the shots. Now, we know he's been injured a lot, and we know how young he is. But I said, I threw this salvo out there. I said today that that's the beginning of the end of him in New Orleans. He now is calling out his, superiors, frankly, and the management and the team, the organization, calling them out saying, you got a problem with me not playing back-to-back? Talk to them. And that's like saying, my bosses are idiots. And how many people get away with that?
Yeah. I will say this one thing in his defense. We climb on players all the time for load management. 90% of the time, it actually is the team that's like, hey, I don't trust, hey, Kawhi, you're not going to play as much. He's still on a minutes limit. It's usually the team that comes in harder and is more protective of its investment, frankly, than the player. That said, Zion's a different case, right? Because let's just say, Scott, as a guy who has spent a bunch of time in New Orleans, and if I had to spend a week there like you're going to, I'd probably come back 15 pounds heavier. Yes. Zion is not the best conditioned athlete we've ever seen in the NBA. And he's maybe been better this year, but like he's got to take care of himself. And that's part of the reason you've got to bring him along slowly. I don't think there's anybody out there who looked at that and said, yeah, they should be limiting him. Like, is there anybody who's like, nah, he should totally play more? No, you're 12-36. You're not making the playoffs. Don't push this guy right now and see what happens. Try to get him right for next season and see what happens. That's why their name comes up in a Jimmy Butler trade. I'm like, why? First off, Jimmy's not going to want to go there, but why? What are you going to do with Jimmy Butler the rest of this season?
Well, frankly, I don't care what Jimmy Butler wants. I actually am from the side of the river that says, you know what? I don't care what you want, need, where you want to go, all your nonsense. Not only do I not want to hear it anymore from him, I think he was throwing games, throwing balls away, shooting air balls, acting like a tool, behaving like a child, all of his demands and nonsense and back and forth with Riley. And you know what's funny is that nothing has progressed. I've been hearing about this guy getting traded now for a month and nothing's happened. And you know what? I did a special today, an hour shoot on Elgin, Baylor. And I talked about his brilliant career from high school in D.C. to Idaho to Seattle to the Lakers in Minneapolis to L.A. and to greatness and even running the Clippers and serving in the Army. And I talked about this guy not playing for 2 months and then playing 6 straight games, winning all 6 and averaging 38 and 22 and a real baller. And then I got to deal with these prima donnas now in this day and age that never play. They get paid $200 million. I mean, honestly, we don't recognize the greatness of the past while we sit around and deal with this bullshack.
By the way, Elgin might be maybe one of the most underrated former superstars. Like, he was one of the first guys to play above the rim. Like, nobody was playing above the rim when Elgin was playing above the rim back in the 60s. And I think he's dramatically underrated as a I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but I think underrated as an all-time great. Look, you were spot on about Butler, by the way, in this sense, particularly this sense. There is no market for him. There is one team that wants him, and they can't figure out how to get him because they got to move Bradley Beal, and Bradley Beal is the one guy who has a worse trade value than Jimmy Butler right now. The Pelicans have talked about it. The Warriors came up, but I was told by a source, like, watch the Warriors to go after Zach LaVine. Like, they want to boost their offense, and Zach's been playing great this year, and that seems more likely and more the direction they're headed than Butler. Look, it's not like Butler's agent isn't trying. There's no demand for Jimmy Butler because they're not sure what kind of disruption he might be down the line, and nobody wants to pay him $100 million for a couple of years after this one, which is what he wants.
You know, I saw it today. We did a story today. I always love talking to you. You tell it like it is. I'm talking today about Bogdan Bogdanovic. Now they're interested in him, and I'm shooting 61% from the floor in my league. And I'm like, Bogdanovic. Christ, they've gone from Jimmy Butler to wanting Bogdan Bogdanovic. Christ, I shoot the ball better than him. What is going on with these terrible trade ideas? And how unbelievable is it that more people talk about the snubs than the actual guys that make it?
That's the crazy thing about the All-Star snubs is that you're like, and by the way, like, Alperen Şengün is deserving of an All-Star spot.
Of
so
course.
Who are you taking off the list? Who are you taking off the list? Because the problem in the West, and look, I had Şengün in on my list when I did it, but there were 7 reserve spots, and there were 12 deserving guys, maybe 13 deserving guys. Guys are just screwed. Like, there is no good option there. You are going to leave off deserving players no matter what. So it's where you want to draw the line. So, like,
I'm so glad you got through this without coughing. You were going to cough right there, and you held out. That was beautiful. Hey, listen, feel better. You're amazing. You never coughed. I love you. I always love talking rack with Kurt Helin of NBC. Have a great weekend. Feel better, Kurt.